Hi, I'm Kelly Vaughn, and welcome to Inside Indy. And on this edition of Inside Indy, we're going to talk about high school football. That's right. And as you know, on WHMB TV 40, every Friday evening, we broadcast a full-blown football game featuring one of our teams here in Central Indiana. So I thought, why not call on a sports football expert to come into the studio to talk about this upcoming season and some interesting information about high school football that I want to share with you as well. Kent Sterling with CBS Sports 1430 is here in the studio with us. Hi, Kent.
Great to see you again, Kelly.
Good to see you as well. CBS Sports 1430, tell people how we can find you, because on our radio dial.
Well, it's 14:30 a.m. certainly,
okay.
And you can download radio.com and listen anywhere in the United States. Follow me on Twitter at Kent Sterling. You can listen on iTunes. We put all the interviews that we do on iTunes and podcast everything, so it's kind of hard to miss.
Okay, and I see you on Facebook all the time doing. You do something called
Breakfast with Kent.
Breakfast with Kent.
Breakfast with Kent is a thing that I started because I wanted to get better at this. I wanted to get better at TV, and when I went on TV, I didn't know how to behave, and I didn't know how to look at the camera like it was a friend. And so the only way that I get better at stuff is by repetition. Mm-hmm. So every morning I get up and do Breakfast with Kent and put it on Facebook and Periscope and YouTube and have a great time. Okay, it's fun.
Yeah, we're going to watch a little clip of a little part of that Breakfast with Kent. And we're going to go into our conversation from this. So let's watch Breakfast with Kent Sterling.
Let's talk about high school football. We spent some time yesterday talking to John Hart, who's the head coach at Brownsburg. Today, we're going to talk to the head coach at Beech Grove High School. We're going to spend time talking to high school football coaches throughout the month of August and into the month of September, because high school football is a great game. And it's a game where young men can learn life lessons that will propel them towards something.
And there you have it, Kent Sterling. Breakfast with Kent Sterling. You were starting a conversation with the audience. And where do you shoot this, in your backyard?
It's the backyard.
In the backyard,
yep.
Okay. About your concerns about high school football and that it's changing?
Well, I think that parents' attitudes about high school football are changing. And so there are fewer people being kind of activated into football at the youth level. And so there aren't as many people playing. And I think that that's a shame. I think the good in high school football is a lot. And the bad in high school football, the potential for injury and that kind of thing, significant injury, it does not outweigh the benefits of high school football. So I hate to see parents opt out of football, because I think that the lessons that are available for kids, overcoming adversity, trusting teammates, being a collective with a common goal, I think that those things are so good for kids as they become adults. And if you've got, while you're in your 20s and you enter adulthood, if you've got an opportunity to draw back on those lessons and realize that maybe you found the answer to your dilemma while you're in your 20s, while you were in your teens playing football, I think that's a great thing and a great way to live a life. And then you talk about the friendships that are made in high school football, which are just a little bit different. My son didn't play high school football. He played high school basketball. And in basketball, it's a little more isolatory, maybe. And in football, it's truly a collective. And when you meet guys who were high school teammates, they're just different. That bond between them is just different.
Lifelong.
And I hate to see that being removed from kind of the curriculum of a youth education.
Okay, so parents, some are pulling or keeping their kids away from football.
Yeah.
Have you seen that affect teams around the state in any way?
Not quite as much at the high school level yet, but at the youth level, like in 4th, 5th, and 6th grade, there are far fewer kids who are playing because of CTE concerns and that kind of thing. And that's going to, eventually it's going to visit itself on high school football. And I think that that's a real shame. I think that the more high school football players we have in our society, more high school athletes, and this isn't just about athletics, it's also about theater or marching band, anywhere you can be part of a collective with a common goal. that's a great thing. And to see football removed from that process for a lot of kids, I think is a shame.
Okay, you make a good point, because if you don't have a football team, you don't have cheerleaders. You don't.
Right, absolutely.
What are they going to show up to cheer for, right? 'Cause
And if you're not athletically gifted, you need to find something to do. As long as you're busy in high school, idle hands. We know what happens with idle hands. And football keeps you busy, theater keeps you busy, marching band, all those things. Football, for a lot of schools, you're talking about 150 to 200 kids inside that high school who are participating in that program. That's a lot of kids who, if high school football kind of goes away, and you saw it with Hammond Knoll, there are 2 high schools in Indiana that have pulled the plug on their programs, at least for this year. They've canceled their schedule. I think that that's a step in the wrong direction.
So in that particular case, then, there weren't enough kids who tried out. Is that?
Yeah, well, plus the enrollment at the school, like for Hammond Knoll, used to be a school with 600-700 kids per class, and now you're down to maybe 100, 150. So that's the enrollment is a part of that, but also parents trying to, manage their kids through what we've come to believe is kind of a rampant problem with high school football, and that's brain injury, and trying to take good care of their kids. I think you take some of the good out of life for your kid, too.
Do you think parents are afraid of their children being injured, or they don't feel that the schools are doing enough to protect the children?
I think that it's a reaction to media, and media has been very, very outspoken in terms of CTE. And when we talk about the NFL, we talk about brain injuries, and we talk about early onset dementia for a lot of the former players and that kind of thing. I think they're responding to that.
Okay. I talked to a former NFL player, was interviewing him about something that had nothing to do with football. And once we finished the interview, he mentioned that he said, I don't know that I would have played, because some of the injuries that he had suffered, and he seemed to be in pain. And again, it was totally unrelated to sports, but he was just mentioning it when he came off the air. And so I guess, again, that's what parents are concerned. But not everybody necessarily experiences that.
No, very few, actually. In the totality of high school football, very few kids are going to wind up with brain injury that manifests itself when they're in their 40s or 50s. And I'm not saying that it's not a valid concern, but it's a concern that's got to be mitigated to some extent by the understanding that playing high school football opens the door to a whole bunch of good.
Okay. Let's talk about you, Kent
Sure.
Sterling. Okay, now currently you're on 1430 with CBS Sports. And tell us your history in Indianapolis, because I know you were with MS Broadcasting for a while as well.
In management.
Okay.
And I got into radio because I like to talk, and I like sports, and radio's always been this neat medium that's really one-on-one. You know that. When I was at home as a kid, you listened to guys, and you developed, and women, and developed kind of a relationship with them. And I've just always been kind of entranced by radio, and so I got into radio and just kept getting promoted into management positions. And that was fun, and it was lucrative to an extent, but it wasn't what I wanted to do. So when Emmis told me, hey, we're done with you, I thought, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to start creating content, and I'm going to figure this out on the other end, because I've got nothing to lose. And, they can tell me I can't work there, but they can't tell me I can't work. And so I got busy and started working, and I just love it. I think it's incredibly challenging to show up every day and have to do 3 fresh hours of sports-related content that's authentic and relevant and entertaining and all that stuff radio's got to be. It is really a challenge every single day, and no 2 days are alike, and that's what I love.
Man, that's incredible. You're right. Like at MS, you're over at WIBC, B105.7, the program director there, and 1070 the fan.
Yeah.
As well. Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
and launched that, and that was all kinds of fun, and running WIBC was fun. I didn't know, the thing that I didn't know was kind of how to manage my time, so I was working 16 hours a day. And in the end, I think the people at Emmis did me a favor. My boss, Tom Severino, died who great dude.
Oh, yeah.
I love
Yeah.
Tom. And he was replaced, and the guy who replaced him, Charlie Morgan, he wanted his guys, and that's just radio. You know, that's working in media. But you try to take that adversity and flip it and turn it into a positive, and we try to do that every day.
All right, all right. Any predictions for the Colts season? We've got just a couple of minutes left.
You know, the Colts are going to go as far as Andrew Luck and that defense can take them. Andrew Luck, I feel like, is in solid shape to start this season. He's making great throws in practice every day. The defense, I can't tell whether it's Andrew Luck is really, really good or that defense is terrible. I can't figure it out, and we're going to have to see them play against somebody else in the regular season to figure that out, and that starts not too long. It's going to be an interesting year. You know, you look at the switch that flipped from 2011 to 2012, and in 11 they had a record of 2-14, and then in 15 or in 12 they were 11-5. That was Andrew Luck. The rest of that roster was terrible. Is Andrew Luck going to be that good again in 2018? I think that's the question. But I think they've got a chance. I think they have a chance to be relevant in the AFC South, and that'd be a great step in the right direction.
Okay. Well, we appreciate you coming in and
my
enlightening
pleasure.
us. And I really enjoy you on Facebook. He actually acts out like what the plays are. He's like in his backyard. No, he's turning this way, and Andrew Luck throws this way. And I'm going, this guy is like his own play-by-play.
Well, yeah, I'm in my own world and bothering the neighbors, so I apologize to them.
Ken Sterling, thanks so much. CBS Sports 1430. Thanks for joining
Kelly.
us
My
on
pleasure.
Inside Indy. We'll be back with more here on Inside Indy after this. And we're back here on Inside Indy. And joining us in the studio, Dr. Lori Buzzetti. And she is the founder and president of So Big, which is a not-for-profit, and So Big Mountain House, which is a maternity house for women, right?
Correct, yes.
Welcome to Inside Indy.
Thank you for having me.
Tell us first about So Big and So Big Mountain House.
So Big was created when I received a call from God about 10 years ago. And I am an obstetrician, a gynecologist, and I was working in the residency program at St. Vincent's Hospital. And at that time, I was head of the women's clinic, and so supervised the residents taking care of women that oftentimes were in need. And so we would see women that were in shelters, women that were living out of their cars, and just during that time, God pressed it into my heart that He wanted me to help Him create a home where women would be able to have opportunities to choose life and would be able to get back on their feet so they could create better tomorrows for their families.
Wow, I have tears in my eyes just hearing that, because you were seeing this firsthand.
Yes.
And then you saw this need. Tell us about those needs. Tell us what you saw the women going through and what typically might force them into a decision not to carry that pregnancy.
Right. So we would see women that just would be in a relationship where once their boyfriend found out they were pregnant, they just didn't want to live together with them anymore, and so then they would have no place to go. Or they would have an unplanned pregnancy where they already had several kids and just didn't know how they were going to be able to support one more. So they would often be in our office and were just crying because they felt like they didn't want to choose something like abortion, but didn't know where else they could turn and what kind of options were out there. So it just helped to fuel, the call that I had received from God to just create a place, a home where they would feel loved, but also create a place where they could connect with resources that they may not even be aware of that could help them.
And when you say the resources that they can access, what are some things that they typically need?
Just getting connected with WIC that can help them provide formula and food during pregnancy, and just helping them kind of navigate through and getting connected with a doctor for prenatal care if they haven't done that. Just helping them get on some other programs that will help them support their families while they're working to become educated or get a job that would help them to be self-sufficient.
Now, what's the age range that you typically would work with, or who you would see coming through the hospital that initially inspired you to do this?
All ages, really. So, typically what I was seeing was women in their 20s. So we take women starting at age 18 and over. So.
Okay. So the name's So Big. What's that mean? Why so big?
So when we originally founded our not-for-profit, we called it the Chrysalis Community. We chose that because the chrysalis was a sign of transformation, which is what we want for these women. And then we just knew that we wanted the community to come alongside us and help us as we walked alongside these women. And as we got ready to develop our logo and our website, we met with a company called Fishhook here in town. And as they met with us initially, they said, "How do you feel about your name? Because it's kind of hard to say and spell." And so we agreed. And so they just went on it. We went on a brainstorming session with them, and they presented the name So Big, and we just immediately loved it because we knew that the plans that God had for this were so big we couldn't even imagine it.
Wow.
So.
Wow. And then the So Big Mountain House.
Yes. So, and then we chose, so the Mountain House is where we tangibly put into action what, we have as our vision for So Big, and just, we chose the Mountain House because we knew that God would move mountains to reach these women in need.
Okay.
So.
The meaning behind. Okay, it makes perfect sense now. It is catchy, and it makes you wonder what it is. And now I have a full understanding of that. So, describe how the Mountain House, the So Big Mountain House, works and how women are able to stay there.
So they can, we find women can get connected with us through a number of different places in town. So we've reached out to places like Life Centers, Women's Care Center, the different hospitals, and so that would initially kind of meet these women at the very beginning, and then they call us and we go through a couple interviews just to make sure that we can fill their needs. And then once we go through that process and they come to live with us, then we just we work with them. We have a social worker that works with them in setting their goals for what their goals are for education and job, what their goals are for promoting healthy pregnancy and relationships, and just kind of the whole scheme. And then we just start walking with them and asking them where they need us to help them in that.
Let me ask you this, because what do the women say they want once they have found themselves in that situation? What do they say they want, or what they wanted when they found out they were pregnant? They're with this guy. What were they seeking? Did they think they were going to stay together? I'm just interested in some of their stories in terms of what they're going through as women.
Yeah, I think some of them, they thought that they would be with their partner, but other times, they just, they reach out to us because they just realize that they want a better life for themselves and their children, and they just want to be able to take that step to improving. They see what they've been doing isn't working, and so they just want some help in creating some new steps.
If they hadn't gotten pregnant, what were their lives like before that? Were they on their way to going to school, to doing those things? Were they focused typically?
Some of them. So then this is just kind of a step back of, they're not going to have that straight path to education. They're going to have to figure out how to balance school and work together and things like that.
Okay, I was trying to get a feel for what their lives were like before. And then let's talk about after. Once they come to the So Big Mountain House, what happens there while they're staying there?
We just help them in terms of if they're having trouble with, like, transportation and childcare are probably some of the bigger obstacles, and so we just help them get that arranged, and then assist them with their volunteers that help us, that also help with transportation, childcare, things like that. And
Okay. Because I was thinking there's some kind of programs or something that they fall under while they're there as well.
So we just we do have a program called Transformed that we're partnering with the Wheeler Mission, and so that's a class that they will. We're just getting that started. They'll be taking twice a week with us that teaches self-awareness, conflict resolution, financial management. We also have volunteers that where we're developing an advocate program. So we have medical advocates that go to the women's appointments with them so that they can be a support system and make sure they understand everything that's going on and to help promote healthy pregnancy. And then we also have financial advocates that start walking with them and start helping them, develop budgets and figure out their spending and doing things like that.
Okay. I guess what really hurts me sometimes about, when I see women in that situation is that they were not financially prepared for that, and you're really in a bind, and which we talked about education, why all that's, it's and ideally, good to get that straightened out ahead of time. We know life doesn't necessarily go that way, but a lot of times we end up in bad situations, or in a shelter or in a situation like that because we're not financially able or capable. And that just really bothers me because I think some of it has to do with the lack of opportunities even when we're younger. Or when I was growing up, I remember having conversations with people that I even wanted to go to college, and they told me, well, why do you want to do that? You're just trying to be a man, just because I wanted to go to school. So I think some of those things that have happened to women in the past, and then when you find yourself in the bind, you can't get out of it. And yet where the guy will go on and he's gone to school or he goes on with his life and gets a job, but you're kind of stuck. And that really bothers me, to see that. So I just commend you for what you're doing because giving those women a new start. Yeah. And so what do you want to do in the future? What's your vision for So Big and So Big Mountain House?
Well, we would love to have other places around the Indianapolis area, other homes, other mountain houses, and then I'm also interested in looking into having a shelter just for pregnant women in the downtown region. So, so we'll see where God takes that. But those are our dreams right now.
Okay. Now, can people volunteer? Can people donate? What do you need?
Yes. So we are taking donations. We're looking, for people to become monthly sponsors as well as to just give one time financially. We have also on our contact page, you can hit a volunteer button, and there'll be areas where you want to volunteer. And we have a volunteer coordinator that then connects you and contacts you to get you plugged in. We're having a gala in September on the 27th, and so we're featuring a comedian, Johnny W., that's coming, and just a lot of fun events, and so hope to just, raise funds so we can continue with the Mountain House as it's going.
Well, we appreciate you coming in. We've got that on the screen, and we'll keep it up there for a second so people can know to buy a ticket to the gala. So we have Dr. Lori Buzzetti, founder and president of So Big and So Big Mountain House. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
On Inside Indy, and thank you for joining us. I'm Kelly Vaughn. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.